We are officially live with this one. Hello to all my Biconics wrestling nerds out there, and welcome to the first ever Biconics Wrestling Podcast live stream pay-per-view review, you guys. Holy Toledo, we are in the house. Let's go.
The production value, my God.
See, you thought I was joking when I said before we started that I spent 4 hours making sure everything was in place, everything looks clean, everything worked well.
That was good. That's good.
That is much appreciated. Oh my goodness, we are here for, like I said, for the official Grapple Gurus pay-per-view review series that we got going on here at the Biconics Wrestling Podcast. And today, tonight, this morning, wherever you're tuning in from all over the world, we are here to review AEW World's End 2023 pay-per-view that took place from Long Island, New York on Saturday, December 30th, 2020. First and foremost, gentlemen, Happy New Year. We made it to 2024. This is
Happy New Year. And Happy New Year to our audience out there, wherever you are at. Let's go for more in 2024.
It's already starting off strong. Come on, we're here. We're live.
It is a beautiful thing. Joining me tonight to review World's End is some of the other AEW boys. First and foremost, you can find him co-hosting the Rampage Cleanup Crew reviews with me, the one and only, the nerdy Puerto Rican himself, Adolfo. My friend, thank you so much for being here.
Saludos, programas. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for having me.
I love it.
My sign language applause in here for you.
Yes, we love to see it. And then, of course, rounding our review panel for now is 1/3 of the Just Our Three Gents Dynamite review team. And you can also catch him all over at The Bro, where we review Ring of Honor as well as filling in when need be. He is also one half of the OG Biconics when we started this thing 2.5-3 years ago. Mr. JVL, sir, my brother, I am so happy to have you.
I am happy to be here. Thank you for allowing me to stay up late on this wonderful Monday night with all of you.
I'm so excited. As I mentioned before, we are here to review AEW World's End. Before we jump into the review proper, gentlemen, let's do some quick thoughts. Some people have said that this was the worst AEW pay-per-view to get put out this year. I'm inclined to disagree a little bit, but this was, for me personally, this was a weird card for sure. I thought there were some highlights, but I also thought there was some glaring lowlights, which we'll talk about. But I'm going to come to you, Adolfo, first. What are your overall thoughts of World's End?
Worst pay-per-view? No. By far not. Were there some odd spots? Were there some things that should have maybe been pulled out and given extra time to some other matches? Yes, I must say that. But by far, I don't think that this was the worst pay-per-view that AEW did this year. Admittedly, though, it wasn't the strongest. It would have been nicer if they would have ended the year on a bit of a stronger note. But it was what it was. I was entertained.
JVL, what did you think of World's End? Initial thoughts?
Again, it's not the worst they've had. They had a couple hiccups going along. When I first watched the show live, I was confused. And that's what I can say best about it. It wasn't disappointing, just confusing in a lot of ways. But this was not the Arthur Ashe Stadium show. This wasn't stuff like that around there. This was just the last gasp, just like the year. It felt like it needed a little more oomph and didn't have it, but it wasn't terrible.
I didn't think it was terrible either, but we'll get it. There are certain matches that I think we all unanimously agree on that were like, huh? I am going to forewarn anyone watching this. There is going to be one match in particular where we may be referencing some news that may have broken a few hours before said pay-per-view. So just as a trigger warning, we may be referring to some sort of SA and some not so good things done against women in particular. So just a forewarning, and I will remind everyone again once we get to said match. But we got a lot to cover, and we're going to try to keep this thing under an hour. I say that, but it never happens. But here we go. So we're going to briefly first go over 0 Hour. So 0 Hour opens up with Willow Nightingale versus Chris Statlander. My first thing that I'm going to say, then I'm going to let my co-host speak for a bit. This should have been on the main card, point blank period. I'm just putting it out there. I feel minus the botches, I still think this was a stronger match than some of the ones that we got on the main card. JVL, I'm going to come to you first. We love Willow. We love Chris. We all unanimously agree about that. How did you feel about their outing on 0 Hour?
This should have been on the main card. We said this during the live stream. And if you haven't joined our Patreon yet to learn about what we did in the live stream, that's where our live video from it is. I suggest go and support us there so you can see all of our wonderful jokes. We basically MST3K'd the entire thing really badly. But Chris and Willow work well together. We know that they're always really tough competitors. And then having Stokely Hathaway to keep the commentary in line again was much needed because out of everyone, Nigel McGuinness was the closest to supporting women's wrestling during this. But having Stokely there to further the storyline and help sell when we had things, lulls in the match or building up to another thing was really needed as well. But overall, these two, they need to work a few more matches together because they are magic in the ring.
I love these two. I can watch them fight all day. Adolfo, Willow, and Chris.
So I totally concur. If you haven't seen the Rampage Cleanup Crew review, go ahead and watch it. It's out on YouTube right now. But I did post up in there how this match was literally a last-minute addition of a match when it should have been announced way ahead of time and put on the main card. Yes, there were a few weird botches. I don't know if that was because maybe someone got injured, or maybe it was that they were both working for the home crowd, so they had, maybe they had those type of butterflies. As a performer, I can tell you when I performed in front of my New Jersey crowd, it's a totally different feel than when I'm performing out of state. So they might have had those butterflies in their stomach performing to their home crowds. But no, it was a great match. You saw the power that Willow brings. You saw the agility that Chris Statlander brings. I hope that they build up from this with them in one way or another.
I also selfishly hope that this transfers over to ROH for a little bit too, because again, with Stokely involved, we could have a very cool cross-promotional tag team, or just like they battle everywhere in every city they can, something like that to put it along. So
now let me ask this: do we think that they might build up Willow and Chris to be the foil to Sith Blue and Julia Hart? Thank you. Tip of my tongue. Thank you.
Julia, yeah. So that's always fun there.
Yeah,
I think it could be some sort of four-way match at a big pay-per-view coming up between the four.
Right.
Mikey?
Yeah, honestly, I just want these two to fight more often. It would be a beautiful thing. I'm hoping that we do get crossover with ROH because I feel that Willow is ROH native too, because she's been there. She had my women's match of the year. She had one of my women's matches of the year. So I hope she goes to ROH. And honestly, I also feel that Chris also belongs on ROH too, because she is just that phenomenal. And I would love to see her mix it up with some of our ROH women's division. I think we're not done with Willow and Chris. I think whether it's them continuing to feud or we throw in the Dark Arts Academy that is Julia Hart and Sky Blue, we shall see.
Yeah.
This match was good.
Yeah, I do have to just say really quick. So in my pick, I did pick Willow to win, but I thought that we were going to see the resurgence of Dark Willow because they seem to have all of a sudden kind of dropped that from the Willow Sky Blue Sith Blue thing, because Willow earlier in the year she did get sprayed by the Julia Hart mist that turned Sky Blue into Sith Blue, and I thought that the same was going to happen to Willow Nightingale, but I guess her positive vibes just fought it off, which is cool. I'm not knocking that.
Vibes, you mean that the bookers went, oh no, we don't have a lot of babyface women in the division and we need to have a few more to take on all of our heels?
That too. But yeah, so I'm happy Willow Nightingale got the W on this.
Definitely.
I am too. I was excited. This got me pumped for the rest of 0 Hour, and then it just went to
promo we had in between here.
Oh, let's talk about this quick promo. What if me and JVL's personal favorites, and for those that really love women's wrestling, we got a quick promo that we are getting Serena Deeb back on AEW television. Yes,
The real professor, not the one who's not here tonight. The real professor of professional wrestling.
I'm so excited that Serena's coming back because I feel that with Thunder now back and Serena now back, you need to inject this women's division. Not to say that it's lacking, but I feel that World's End was used to clean up a little bit of some storylines that are lingering in 2023. I'm ready for Serena to basically face anyone at this point.
So the other day, yesterday actually, Alice and I, we were heading down to Sesame Place to take the boys to Sesame Place, and we actually had this conversation where with Serena coming back and Thunder Rosa being back, I'm sure Britt Baker is about to come back, that hopefully we're going to see a revitalized women's division in AEW, and hopefully the AEW bookers will listen to the constructive criticism and start pushing the women's matches.
There was a whole thing Soraya put out today, that trend that's going on TikTok of I'm a what and all these things. I sent it to all of you, and they directly address it in that as well. But with Serena coming back, with Thunder coming back, with Hayter on the way back as well, Jamie Hayter.
That's right.
Like there are so many storylines that are coming to them quickly. They'd be very, very behind the times if they didn't actually grasp onto this, especially because they've been left in the dust now by WWE, who's got 2 women's matches a night, which is ridiculous. If they want to set themselves apart, as WWE is claiming all of their TV time and everything else, put the women first. They will carry you to success.
Yeah, who would have thought WWE would have turned that corner? Just like a few years ago, the big draw with the women's matches were the stupid freaking bra matches and nonsense like that. And now, like, you have... we're not going to talk about that out here. Let's talk about AEW.
We're gonna tune in for the Viconics, the BC WrestlePod episode coming later this month, where we're going to talk about anything and everything. But again, I was on a high. This was great. And then the rest of 0 Hour happened after this match and this amazing promo we got from Serena, because then we get into this TNT Championship 20-man battle royale.
I called it. I called this.
In hindsight, I shouldn't have done in predictions the throwaway, but you know what? Honestly, I didn't know how it was going to play out, but I knew it's not going to really matter anyways, and boy howdy was I proven right later. But basically, this is the equivalent to the Money in the Bank contract, where whoever wins this gets a TNT Championship match anytime, anywhere. You had 20 men on the AEW roster, or you're supposed to have 20 men on the AEW roster, but we borrowed a couple people from Ring of Honor. And of course, as always, Ring of Honor gets no respect. Dalton Castle. I was so upset. I did like how he and Johnny TV were just fighting the entire time, but they were gone too quick.
It made my heart happy to see Dalton Castle on a pay-per-view, because the man needs more promotion anyways. But yes, this was like, unlike Money in the Bank, where they can further other storylines, like the Rumble, like where they would put storylines within it so you can see things happen. This was building toward an end. And that was shown off by putting Lance Archer and Luchasaurus, I'm not calling him Kill Switch.
Luchasaurus, dang it.
Kill Switch.
Which I loved on the stream. Then, Adolfo, I loved that you were yelling out every time that in the later match, when Christian would do his finishing move, he's doing the Luchasaurus. Hit it with Luchasaurus! So good. But yes, putting the big men under tables outside and then like having everyone fight for a while. Inventive. I haven't seen that before on a lot of things, especially because it started outside the ring. I wonder if there's going to be like, this was going to be like the King of the Mountain or the Reverse Battle Royal for some reason, because they all started directly outside the ring. But it was full of a couple high spots, some people that didn't need to be in it that were in it, and in general, I loved the final 2 once we got rid of Lance Archer.
Yeah. Number one, I really liked that nifty leather folio that they gave the winner in lieu of a briefcase like Money in the Bank. It's just this leather folio here. We got this. We got this at Staples down the road in Nantucket, Long Island.
Stationary section though. This was like monogrammed.
But in all seriousness, I actually enjoyed as far as battle royales go, I enjoyed this one. I will say I was really disappointed that there were no luchadors, because typically for these types of matches, that's when they'll bring out a bunch of luchadors to do their thing, and they didn't. So that didn't happen. I didn't get my Penta fix, so that sucked. But the match overall, I thought was fine. It was entertaining. I did. And I think it's because I had to go do something when the match started. So when the two biggins came out from underneath the table, I was like, oh, whoa, where did they come from? Type of situation. But yeah, no, it was cool. I enjoyed it. I liked the ending of it until the ending ended up doing something else.
Yep.
Later on down the road. But I liked the ending. I like the ending.
At the time, it was the right one. At the time, it was a great way to set up what could have been a long storyline.
Yes. Yep.
But then...
Which we'll get to.
We'll get into that because I have a lot of feelings when it comes to that one.
By the way, Luchasaurus won. Kill switch. Luchasaurus won.
The doctorate, the person that has the doctorate in history and is also a big video game nerd won. So I can't be upset about that one. But something that we could get upset about just because of how it was, I wanted this next match to go harder than it was. But to end out 0 Hour, we had an FTW championship match where Hook defended the title against Wheeler Yuta. I have to say, I wanted more from this match. It was fine, but there was a lot of missed opportunities for me personally.
Go ahead, JVL, and then I'll go.
Car windshield. We needed that kind of catharsis. No, I think it was best summed up by how we were like looking at the construction of the match as we're watching this on the live stream, because when Wheeler Yuta pulls out that FTW branded like trash can lid, and then we're like, okay, so basically they have their set props over here that they only have so much time to get to, and it's really not this kind of no disqualification match. Really, they should have had a regular match between the two of them anyways, but it lacked a coherent through line. Even some no DQ matches have. And it became more just about who can pull off the bigger spots, how are we going to get this through, and Taz losing his mind on commentary because his son's in the match.
Yeah.
I'm happy Hook won, not because there's anything great coming from this, but that it could further a feud with Wheeler Yuta for the pure title down the road now, where he can come and do his style match, and then you now have that balance with them. But they're not bad together. It just wasn't the right type of match to have at this one. It should have been before the Battle Royal on 0 Hour.
Yeah. This was a disappointing match. I was really hoping that this match was the match that was going to make me care about the FTW belt, and it didn't. I disagree. I feel that had Wheeler Yuta won, and we all know my feelings on Wheeler Yuta, all right? I feel that had he won, then we would have put some stakes on this FTW belt, and we could have had Hook go from, not knocking the guy's wrestling, he's a good wrestler, but having him go from this like cardboard cutout Orange Cassidy to actually like, I lost my belt and I want to go get it, so I'm gonna go get it. And then, you know, like on Raw, on Dynamite or Rampage or what have you, we could have had spots where he's doing like Rocky training or some stuff like that, so that he could, you know, get the belt back. But like, I felt like this match just missed on so many beats in that regard. As a wrestling match, as a no DQ style match, you know, as an extreme match, it was mid.
As two people who are ostensibly submission masters too, like.
Yeah, so they didn't need all the extreme stuff like the garbage can and the chair, all that. They could have left all that. Oh, and the hockey stick that totally didn't break before it was supposed to break,
and then broke another spot,
and then broke another spot. You're right. Like, they could have done away with all that, and if you would have just let them have a match, it would have been so much better. So much better.
That hockey stick spot really made me go, because literally it hit Wheeler, and it just stayed there because of the angle. I was like, oh my goodness. I also felt that the ending was a bit, okay, that's how we're doing this. Takes the hockey stick, like, gets Wheeler in a submission, for Wheeler to tap out really quickly. I'm like, oh, I guess
Yeah.
that's what we're doing. Okay.
I also wonder if this would have felt like a better no DQ match or hardcore match had we not had the TNT Championship match later in the night that did it 10 times better.
Yeah, and I didn't want to say that, but this, I feel you're right, JVL, that this match suffered from that TNT no DQ match, championship match, that did it 10,000 times better. You can make an argument that in that match, in that TNT championship match, you had two masters of the craft going at it. And these two, and I know Wheeler and Hulk have been wrestling for a while, but comparatively to Christian and Adam Copeland, they're rookies in the game, especially when it comes to no DQ extreme style matches. So this match definitely suffered from that match just being. We'll talk about it.
You guys are way too nice. Even if we didn't get that TNT Championship match, in my opinion, this was a lame no DQ match, period. Because, come on, and this is, you're going to hear this reoccurring thing, but we had better hardcore women's matches on regular weekly television than we did on pay-per-view. I'm going to pull up the most recent one. Chris and Willow versus Mercedes and Diamante in that street fight. That is how it's... Yeah. But even still, I was disappointed, and I feel that this does nothing for Hook and Wheeler Yuta. So hopefully, I want to see Wheeler defend more in Ring of Honor since he is the pure champion. And I'm hoping we actually start putting Hook into some actual like storyline stuff and not just meandering around. Maybe he's with best friends. Maybe he's not. Give me more Hookhausen. That's what I want.
Can we please get more Danhausen on our team?
Right?
MVP of that Battle Royal.
Right.
Anyway. The man sells like business. Oh.
So that covers 0 hours. So now, after we get the opening promo video, which shout out to whoever makes those things because I'm like, those are great. We opened up the main card of World's End with the, how do I put this? The losers, like 4-on-4 match, like the consolation prize for not winning the Continental Classic. Though this match was a banger, though, in my opinion. But this is the All-Star 8-man tag, which saw Claudio Castagnoli, Ryan Danielson, Mark Briscoe, and Daniel Garcia taking on the team of Brody King, Jay White, Jay Lethal, and Roosh. I like this match. This was fun.
I love that you put it in context of the losers of this, whereas they're definitely mirroring the G1 so much because the next night after Wrestle Kingdom is always where you get these like multi-man tag matches between those that lost in the blocks or anything else, but you have them usually in a way to set up heels versus faces, Survivor Series style, or there's been like a long running history of these people. What got me on this was there was no rhyme or reason to either team. Because there weren't, like, it was a mix of heels and faces because the BCC is neither. And then you have, like, people that ostensibly were in different groups working together for some reason. The winner of it, the person that made the pin, I'm so happy that Daniel Garcia was featured in this match as he basically got run through the entire thing. But on the other side of it, it was a weird team to be on and to have all this with. Yes, now I see from the interviews afterwards that they may be setting something up with him and Danielson and a couple other things to go from there, but it just, the logic of it didn't make sense to me, and so I enjoyed the match, but I was having a hard time getting into it because I'm like, the pieces don't fit. Why are you doing it this way?
And lest we forget that Daniel Garcia, there is going to be a feud with the House of Black coming down the pipe for him because that whole thing happened in Collision.
Right.
And it's funny, JVL, because when you said this as we were watching the match, I was trying to connect the dots as to why they made these teams the way they did them. And when you look at them, you can make a case that Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, Daniel Garcia, and Mark Briscoe are more face-oriented, whereas Jay White, Brody King, Roosh, and Jay Lethal are more heel-oriented.
I kind of disagree with Roosh. I feel like he was being presented more as a very hard-hitting kind of baby face throughout the whole entire tournament because most of his opponents... He's a tweener, yeah. Because most of his opponents were heels in the Gold League.
Yeah, but that promo spot when he first came back was kind of aggressive.
When he first came back, and then in the tournament, he was portrayed as this like middle of the road kind of thing. Same with Brody King. because Brody King was like going off and hauling off on people, and people love Brody King, even though he's supposedly a heel in the House of Black by himself. He's a lovable big idiot. I love him.
Yeah. I think that we said this during when we were watching the pay-per-view, that we could have taken this match and put it on 0 Hour, and then taken Willow and Chris Statlander and made that the first match of the actual World's End pay-per-view. But it was entertaining. For the nitpicks that we have, it was entertaining. It was nice to see Daniel Garcia get that pin. What are we doing with Jay White?
I don't think they know what they want to do with Jay White either.
And yeah, I'm happy to see that Bryan Danielson didn't win the Continental Classic. Okay, bye.
He didn't want to at all, but I think with Jay White, AEW is waiting to see who is still left after this round of contracts come through, because depending on who's still on the roster, do you push Jay White then because he's on your roster and can handle that, or do you have enough people lined up where you never really had an idea for him in the first place, so now you can figure out some other place to put him?
All right, fair. That's fair.
I don't know.
I mean, lest we forget, Bullet Club Gold.
Gold.
That's a thing. You know what I mean? I don't know. Go ahead. Next.
Yeah, so hopefully now that we're done with the Continental Classic, I'm hoping that Bullet Club Gold makes a returning. Obviously, it's just going to be Jay White and the Guns because Juice Robinson is out with injury for who knows how long.
Oh, he doesn't do the Adam Cole type of thing where he's just going to be injured and walking around. He can run his mouth all day long.
Oh, yeah.
Please.
And people will eat that up. I'll eat that up.
I love our Honeycomb Monster. He's great.
Yeah.
Again, love Daniel Garcia picking up the win here. I love Brody King also dog walking. Daddy Magic on commentary too was hilarious. I also love the bit as Daniel Garcia was getting ready to do the dance, Danielson's music interrupts it.
That was good.
I'm a little intrigued to see what happens because, yes, Daniel Garcia and Daddy Magic called out the House of Black, but I'm like, but they're currently about to have a match against FTR. I don't know what we're doing anymore. It's weird. But I thought this was a pretty fun opener. I had no complaints. So that was good. Moving on, after this all-star 8-man tag, we get into Andrade El Idolo versus Miro with CJ Perry at ringside accompanying Andrade. I'm mad at this. I am mad at this crowd because they were really quiet for most of this until we got towards the ending spot. I'm like, you guys, did I want them to do more? Obviously, but I enjoyed this match. Anytime I see Andrade or Miro in the ring, I'm not going to complain. And of course, as we got official confirmation during the media scrum, but also what we were told before the pay-per-view, this is Andrade's last match in AEW. Mm-hmm. He is going to be going elsewhere. His contract is up. I will have to be watching Monday Night Raw to see if he appears there or he appears back at CMLL. I'm not going to complain either, but
it's on right now, so we could switch over to it.
Nah, we're good. My DVR is recording it. I can watch it. I already got spoiled with the first match. I'm mad.
Yo, our loving audience, I don't care about spoilers. I wouldn't be mad if someone posted it in the comments.
I'm going to post it in the private chat.
If there's an Andrade.
But let's talk about Andrade versus Miro. What do we think?
You mean, as Jesse put it, the battle of the two men who are most upset with their booking in AEW?
I was making those gestures when we were doing the intro to this because I really enjoyed it. It was two big men, not only big men, but like big men that actually know how to move in the ring, doing their thing, and it was fantastic. I also enjoyed the whole, oh my God, the wife, not CJ.
CJ Perry.
CJ Perry, thank you. It is CJ. Yeah, I also did totally enjoy CJ Perry on the outside of the ring, and how like when she first came in, she was with Andrade, but like as she saw he was getting beat up, was like flip flopping, and then that last final betrayal, that look that Andrade gave her, and she was just like, it was good. It was good. It was also Alice's. Alice really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, Alice couldn't make this review, but she really did enjoy that. It did add a little dramatic gravitas to it, which we need in our testosterone-filled soap opera. But yeah, the match was good. If this is being the last match for Andrade in AEW, I think it was a good last match. I think it's not one that he should be ashamed of. I feel maybe wrestling wise, this wasn't like super duper Andrade, but just again like storytelling wise and those other facets of wrestling, it was fantastic. And he we need to applaud him as he goes on to do whatever he does now.
These two had great chemistry in the ring, and I was very sad knowing that it was basically Andrade's last match took away a bit for me, because there was no way I could get fully invested knowing that he's probably going to take the pin, all that type of stuff with it. The ending was a little confusing, but I figured they had to rush whatever they were doing with it, because obviously with him not being there, you want to set up this hopefully thing they pay off in storyline where Miro still doesn't understand why CJ did it at all. And so now he's trying to figure that out as she continues to set up people for him to knock down or bring him back to some sort of center. I figure that they picked the right person, though, because both of them carried each other to an amazing match. And had Andrade not been leaving, this could have gone even farther and been such a bigger spectacle. But the 1-2 ooze, the Machka kick that does not knock somebody down to the game over, it just was well placed, thought out, methodical, and a good kind of reset after a couple of lame duck matches we had.
Yeah, yeah. And then can we just send a shout out to CJ Perry coming out after being in the hospital with a MRSA in that finger, and she still made it out there and looked glamorous.
Miro's favorite finger.
Yep. So shout out to you, CJ Perry. Shout out to you. We're glad to see you back.
And glad you're healthy.
Oh, absolutely. This match was a lot of fun. I'm interested to see what Andrade's future holds wherever he decides to go. And I really hope we continue to put Miro on television, because the start and stop is starting to get on my nerves.
Yeah.
Because I thought we were doing something after his all-out match against Powerhouse Hobbs back in September. And then he's just been waiting on the sidelines outside of a match with Action Andretti. I think one other match he's just been sitting because of the tournament, but now that's over. Here's hoping that Miro gets pushed. Speaking of people that I feel like deserve to get pushed, we move on to our first championship match of the evening. For the AEW Women's World Championship, we have challenger, returning Riho, no less, taking on your champion, Timeless, Toni Storm. I loved both of these women in the ring. Obviously, the crowd wasn't as behind the wrestling as they should, but they were behind Timeless Toni Storm as the character, which I love. Luther also got kudos for me in this match just because of being the butler was great. I thought this was an okay match, not the best technical-wise, but this was a fun one for me to watch. Tony just being ridiculous in every single way was fine. And Riho being the little Sailor Moon like person that she is. I love Riho's Joshi style of wrestling, man, and I feel like people don't get it, but I do. Joshi style is completely different than American wrestling. And Toni has a little bit of experience with that too, given the fact she was also in Stardom for a little bit too. So, boys, what did we think of the clash of Sailor Moon versus a modern day Hollywood starlet?
Sailor Moon versus Betty Grable. I thought it was a great match. Yeah, like again, technical wise, wrestling wise, maybe not the highest punch of the card, but entertainment wise, it was great. The Toni Storm is definitely killing it with this timeless Hollywood starlet thing she has going. Riho, the only disappointing thing about this match was that they did not build it up until that promo right before the match, which they should have shown that so long ago to build it up, because then I would have been like, oh yeah, Toni Storm did do that to Riho, so she does have a bone to pick with Toni Storm. That makes sense, and build it up off that. That was my only major complaint was that, and there were a few botches in there as well, but yeah, they should have built this up way earlier than they did.
100%. This was, I felt like the match had two acts. It had the act with Luther there before he was thrown out, and then the crowd came alive at some point because then the two women could finally get to getting at each other and moving around a lot better than they were before, there was that presence that was slowing things down outside. But you have Riho versus Petty Lamar, because she's not petty, but she's petty. And I loved that once Riho was given that go to like finally flip out and have things on it, it was a lot more fun. And also the submissions were even worse because Tony was literally sitting on the ground.
Oh yeah.
So far back.
Yeah.
But then giving Riho that strong look. She kicked out of a Storm Zero. She kicked out of a couple of other big moves. And my heart was actually flutter for this because the ending came based on a Jake Roberts style DDT. He must be so happy somewhere that ended a match. And that's why I loved it so much, was that it started off as a character piece and then ended up as a Joshi match at the end. And that's what you wanted from it. So I was very happy with what they did, even with a few botches in between.
Yeah.
I love these two women so much. I also love that Mariah May comes out. And I was like, girl, did we forget the champagne bottle? But it was a bucket of roses.
And everyone thought she was going to hit her with the bucket because she.
I thought too. I was just like, dang. I was like, we're already turning on her. What has it been, like, not even a month yet? But I'm happy that Mariah May is still Timeless Tony Storm's #1 fan. I'm just hoping now, at least at the time of this recording, now that we have a couple of months until the next pay-per-view for AEW, because Revolution is in March, hopefully we start building up better feuds for Tony to go up against. We still haven't established whether her title is exclusively to Dynamite and Julia to Collision. I would love to see cross-promotion because there are some women on Collision I think would do very well against Tony. Thunder Rosa.
How many other people are returning, as we were talking about, that would have a great match with Tony Storm?
Oh my gosh. I need Jamie Hayter to, like, when she's ready, I would love to see Tony versus Jamie immediately.
I think Jamie's the one that needs to take the title off her.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. So really quickly, after this match was over, we got a quick backstage segment with Dante Martin. He talks about helping pick up the win on Rampage, but he's ready to actually take himself more seriously. And of course, our favorite person to issue challenges, Orange Cassidy, comes out. He's like, all right, I got you, man. Like, you want this?
Every time. This is the best way to book these matches.
Orange Cassidy comes up and it's just like, all right, bro, you're just throwing out challenges like that. I'll see you on Dynamite for the International Championship, and just walks off in Dante's cool. And now we have an AEW International Championship match on Dynamite between Dante Martin and Orange Cassidy, which I'm here for it. I also love the fact that I was like, I thought Top Flight was Darius and Dante. I guess Action is taking the place while we're pushing Dante to go for singles gold, which, you know, sure.
Either that or they're trios now, so we actually have another trios team in there.
Technically, we have a trio that hasn't been. That's the only trio that's not involved in the storyline, and we could actually have to feud with The Acclaim, but they already lost their championship match, so who knows?
I want to see House of Black tear them apart.
Ooh, actually, that'd be kind of fire. But who knows what we're going to do after this FTR House of Black tag team match on Collision? Who knows what we're going to do with all that?
Well, who knows if Buddy Matthews is going to be sticking around in AEW anyways?
Who knows if Malachi Black wants to stick around too? I don't know, man. There's a lot of things that we're just waiting. It's just a wait and see game. And speaking of waiting and seeing, oh boy. At this point, while not the most stellar work, I was just like, okay, this is where things are going to get interesting. Now, I want to put this disclaimer out there. I think they did the best they could. That being said, now let's rip this match apart. So next we had Swerve Strickland taking on Dustin Rhodes. Now, before we rip this match apart, this was originally supposed to be Swerve Strickland versus Keith Lee, but literally the day of the pay-per-view, Keith Lee posts on Twitter saying that he's been working with an injury for the last year and a half now, according to the tweet. It was mostly healed up, but he didn't take the time to heal all the way properly, and AEW doctors had not cleared Keith Lee to do the match, so last minute, a couple hours before the pay-per-view, we got word that Swerve would be taking on Keith Lee's tag team partner in Dustin Rhodes.
I'm glad we got him at Final Battle because this was hard.
This was hard to watch. I don't blame Dustin and Swerve for what we witnessed. I blame the bookers. I blame Tony Khan because If you knew Keith Lee wasn't ready to go, why did you? I don't know what we're doing anymore. I don't blame the performers, but with that being said, let's talk about this match.
And be
I'm
careful,
not.
'cause you might get blocked by Dustin Rhodes for having an opinion. He's been all over Twitter today, really upset at folks crapping on this match.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm not going to badmouth or crap this match. It was for what it was, entertaining and enjoyable, for what it was and for what they had to do. I cannot fault, especially being someone who was in Dustin Rhodes' situation where at the last minute I got a phone call and was like, hey, we need you to do this thing. Oh, by the way, you're the main thing and you have 5 fights in this thing, but you have 3 weeks to learn all this. So, yeah, go get it. I haven't been in that situation. I'm not faulting Dustin Rhodes. I actually am gonna applaud him and applaud Swerve Strickland for being able to put a match together with the cards that dealt with them that they had. Should it have just been pulled all together? Yes. And then that time added to some other matches? Yes. That's not what happened. They called up Dustin at the literal last minute, and I think that they put together a good match given the circumstance.
I disagree with you on that one. I don't think that they should have pulled the match. My gripe with this is not with either of the performers because they put on one heck of a match together, as they are two brilliant performers. Dustin Rhodes is timeless at this point, not Tony Storm, but he's timeless, and Swerve can work anybody to make them look amazing. My gripe was the fact of you had a setup here with an actual injury that stopped the match from happening, and then you do an ankle break spot on that same person, and yet even though they shouldn't be cleared to go, just like Keith Lee wasn't, now you're putting them in a match, and not just a match, but a 10-minute plus match. Like, if you're going to break his ankle, make it a short one. He embarrasses Dustin Rhodes because of what he did to him. Knock it out. Or don't do the ankle break until later in the match when you're 5-6 minutes deep. Swerve breaks his ankle in the middle of the match and he soldiers through. This threw off the entirety of whatever narrative they had running with it, and also crapped on what was actually going on in Keith Lee's life, which made it hard then for Swerve to react because, okay, I've done the thing I've done, but now I have to work even harder to beat Dustin Rhodes for 10 minutes after breaking his ankle, whereas logically, I either should be good enough to embarrass him at this point in his career, or I should be good enough to take him for a while, get frustrated, and then beat the crap out of him. That's what bothered me, was it was nonsensical, as if they really couldn't think through even a small part of this. Who's booking this crap?
I don't know, man. This was a hard sell for me because, once again, I don't blame Swerve or Dustin, but I'm echoing the sentiments of JVL here. I feel that there were other ways that you could do something like this because the talent is there. Swerve has proven time and time again he can work with just about anybody to make a really good match. And Dustin has the experience on being able to adapt if need be. But man, I hated the beginning half of this match. I feel that if we did that during the match, after 5 or 6 minutes, had they actually started wrestling, I think it would have been better because you get. Now, I don't want to speak for all the wrestling community, but I feel that the crowd would be invested more and be like, oh, dang, Swerve is being a jerk right now and beating up on Dustin. And then, of course, Swerve continues to have that momentum because he literally destroys Dustin. But I feel that there was a sequence of events that were out of order that kind of made this match like very. I feel that
will
if
agree.
you switch things around and the sequence didn't right, I feel that it would have been a better payoff. And you continue to have Swerve with that momentum. Dustin is able to say he survived being in the ring with Swerve Strickland. But I was disappointed, and it hurt me because I like both of these guys, but the bookers didn't do them any service.
If you're going to push Swerve the way you have been, though, he should be able to keep up his own against a veteran like that. And if you're going to break down the veteran even more, he should have embarrassed him. That's where Swerve's level is. He's at the AEW title level. He should be embarrassing folks that are not physically there or hurt, and he's not. It made no sense.
It didn't, and this one made me sad.
Oy.
I again, I'm gonna sit here in my corner, and I disagree with you both.
Do it, please. Get in that corner and just tell us how we're wrong. I want to hear that.
And I will agree that it just seemed like there was just a sequence of things that were out of order. But coming out of that match, I felt that Swerve still looked like a freaking monster. He still looked like because towards the end of that match, he did destroy Dustin, and I feel it's still going to keep his momentum up. Me personally, Lizard Brain.
No,
that's it.
We don't disagree on that. I think Swerve is going to be okay.
But that's my question to you, Adolfo, is that would that have been more impactful had he gone that full monster 7 minutes earlier because the guy is on one leg? Or does it make it that he had to work his way to that point and then finally break into monster mode when he's saying, I'm running through everybody, I'm big? Like, it dilutes it for me.
I think that it makes Swerve look like he's going to get that W by any means necessary. Harkening back to the Hangman Adam Page match, that he's going to do what he's got to do to get the job done.
He works through the adversity, but in that match, he was also being completely run down by Adam Page as well. He basically broke Dustin Rhodes' ankle before the match even started.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, once this match was done and over with, I was like, all right, this wasn't the most stellar thing. I was just like, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I don't blame Swerve for Dustin Rhodes.
It didn't get hijacked by the crowd, though.
It didn't get hijacked by the crowd. So before we get into the match that got hijacked by the crowd, this is where I am going to forewarn anyone who is watching. Before we talk and dissect this next match, we do have to bring up the news that broke before the pay-per-view on Saturday morning, a couple hours before World's End was supposed to go live, about Chris Jericho and some certain allegations made against him and just all the things that came out. So we will be referencing things of SA and those kinds of nature and stuff like that. This is your warning now. If you are triggered by that kind of stuff and it's going to be hard for you to listen through the first half of while we talk about this, please go ahead and take a couple minutes and then just come back and check in with us, and then we'll be out of our way.
Let us know in the comments and the chat going on right now that you're back, and we'll talk to you there.
Yeah,
for reals. All right, let's get to the stinker of this whole entire thing, just because of everything surrounding what happened outside of the ring in terms of the news, and the in-ring was not great either. We have another 8-man tag. This time, we see the team of Les Sex Gods. Ugh, gross. I hate saying that. I should have thought about that better. But Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Darby Allin and Sting, and taking on the team of Ricky Starks, Big Bill, and representing the Don Callis family, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Konosuke Takeshita.
Who was a last-minute change.
Because it was supposed to be Kyle Fletcher, but then the internet had a riot, and then last minute they threw in Konosuke Takeshita instead of Kyle Fletcher, which on the one hand, I don't know. Obviously, it wouldn't have improved the match anyways, I don't think, but at least we're getting Konosuke back in the ring because it's been quite some time since he's been there, and I get the feeling that maybe Kyle would have taken the pin in this match. I'm still not happy about who took the pin in general, but it is what it is at this point.
It is also to point out that on the other side, this was a bit of a scramble as well, because this was supposed to be the Golden Jets,
right?
Taking on Ricky and Big Bill.
But Kenny Omega he came down with diverticulitis. Kenny Omega, we hope that you are healing and recovering, and we can't wait for you to get back. But because Kenny Omega had to drop out and it was so sudden, that's where we got this 8-man tag situation.
Tag schmoz.
This was a whole mess. So before we get into this match, let's do some journalistic intent. We're going to quickly go over it because you're going to want to stay tuned because we're going to do a longer discussion on this later in the week. But really quickly, a few hours before World's End was supposed to air, news got dropped that Mr. Chris Jericho had not done some nice-o things. Essentially, what brought this to light is that Chris Jericho was going back and forth with, was it CM Punk's attorney, I think?
Yes, it was CM Punk's attorney. So, yeah, the whole light to this powder keg was that CM Punk, they were talking about that brawl at All Out and how people had signed NDAs. And then Chris Jericho piped in. He's like, I didn't sign an NDA. And CM Punk's attorney then shot back. Again, this is all on social media. CM Punk's attorney shoots back, it's in your employee handbook, you should read it. To which Jericho made this long-winded, I don't reference this employee's handbook. In the last 5 years that I've been with AEW, I've never had an employee handbook. You need to stop, blah, 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 blah. So again, this is still back and forth between CM Punk's attorney, and it's a big dick swinging contest. And then out of nowhere, a reporter,
Player 3 enters the chat.
Nick Houseman, comes in and says, if I were you, Chris, I'd be careful because you have some skeletons in your closet, and this can swing really bad if those skeletons were to come out. And then Nick Houseman goes on to which, if you watch the Rampage review, I actually do a much more in-depth breakdown of it. The article was on, I believe, scscoops.com. So anyway, and again, we're still dealing with social media, where Nick Houseman then hearkens Chris Jericho to Harvey Feinstein, and how Harvey Feinstein was a really powerful mega producer. Harvey Feinstein made some great movies. Harvey Feinstein is now in jail. And if those skeletons were to come out, Chris, not saying, but might happen to you. And then another tweet came out, which was a retweet from a while ago, where it was coming up that Kylie Ray found herself in a situation where Chris Jericho had invited her. Again, this is allegations. These are allegations.
Okay, is the word we
You can
use.
legally say that.
Yes, allegedly.
We do. We also say we believe the victims in this, but
oh yeah, oh totally. But yeah, at this point we have to say allegedly. But that Kylie Ray was invited up to Chris Jericho's room. Chris Jericho made a pass at her, and she flipped out. And
what was said was allegedly that she was invited up there for kind of a coaching session or for
right. Yeah, I apologize. Yeah,
and she thought there were going to be other people there.
She was told allegedly that there were going to be other people there, and then that what transpired was he was by himself, made a pass at her, and thank you for refreshing my brain on that. And I made a pass at her, and she flipped out. And then at the end of that, Kylie Ray responded to that tweet with a big heart. So again, this
a hell of a lot mental health wise in the last years, which all seems to have stemmed a lot from this.
Right. And then the questions came up about her leaving AEW, if Jericho had anything to do with it, but Tony Khan said that it was an amicable split and both parties were happy with AEW and Kylie Ray, blah, blah, blah. So unfortunately, at this time, with this situation, there are still a lot of unknowns that, we want certain people to get their comeuppance, but
it's a lot of alluding to and threats that basically weaponizing this poor person's experience later on to get somebody for swinging their dick too far on Twitter.
Yeah, or people
dealt
because
with months ago, years ago.
Right. But this now leads us into this match, because every time Jericho hit the mat, the crowd was booing. There were signs being held up.
Okay, before we get into the actual wrestling this time again, because the prelude was still happening, because everybody was making their entrance. Jericho makes his entrance first for his team. Half the crowd was singing along, half the crowd was booing. If you take a look in the back,
the crowd on the live feed,
which was crazy. And then they kept trying to cut away from the crowd, but there were signs that Jericho go away. Jericho NDA. I was just like, this is getting crazy.
Yeah.
There were Kylie Ray chants during the match.
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy. But then, before we get into the wrestling, some of the other wow moments is, as Darby is making his entrance, allegedly he is looking in the ring where Chris Jericho is. And they didn't cut this from the replay, because I watched it yesterday, where we hear Darby Allin allegedly call Chris Jericho. I think allegedly that's who he was addressing, but we did hear Darby call somebody a piece of shit, which was crazy. But then to make matters even more crazy, in the middle of this match, Chris Jericho tags himself in. Ricky Starks gets tagged in. Ricky Starks just looks at Chris Jericho from the other side of the ring, puts up the biggest middle finger to Chris Jericho and tags himself in. And I caught like Powerhouse Hobbs, bro. I don't think what? Wait, oh, okay, sure, fine. Yeah. Hobbs was like, what? Oh, okay, sure, I'm getting in this ring. Ricky was not having it either. But now that we've talked about everything surrounding outside of this match, let's talk about what happened inside this match, because this inside this match was also a flippin' mess. This was garbage. This was not good, you guys. Except for Takeshita and Darby. Those are like the only two people that highlighted that for me.
I feel like this was the match, the Phantom of the Opera match, where this match had two sides, right? Yeah. Because when you had Ricky Starks and Big Bill and Powerhouse Hobbs and Takeshita and Sammy and Darby in the ring, it was dynamic. It was great. They were getting at it and they were hitting those crazy moves. I'm giving Sting a pass. He is retiring in March. All right. So yeah, when he comes on, he's not going to be doing like the super duper flips. He's going to come in and he's going to clean house. This is his retirement run. This is his swan song. Give him his flowers. He comes in the ring. He clears everyone out with some punches. He howls and then he tags back out. And I'm fine with that. I am fine with that.
Couple Scorpion Death drops, a Scorpion Death block, do the greatest hits.
But then when Jericho was in with anyone else, and also like when he was in there with Sting, that's where it just all got
Sting was doing
ugly.
To really interact with him. He's, dude, stop trying to draw me into this.
Yeah, that's what I felt like. That Sting was really trying to. Even when they were both putting the Scorpion Deathlocks on, who was it? On
Hobbs and Big Bill, I think. Both of them. Yeah, as the big guys.
When they were doing that spot, it almost felt like Sting was, dude, no, okay, fine, we're doing this. You know what I mean? But, yeah, it just... And for whatever reason, Jericho was the one that was in the ring the longest. And I don't know why. I don't know if that was a callback to how this was supposed to have been. The Golden Jets versus the Don Callis family. I don't know. It's know.
Ego. It's all ego. And for the other part of it is like, you would think on the day with a veteran like Sting being on your team, he could say to him, no, you're going to sit on the side. You're not going to enter that much because you're going to draw focus from everything that we do. You're going to be the worst person to be. But no, Jericho knows better. He's got to show he's the best. Meanwhile, you've got Sammy nearly concussing himself again on that jumping cutter, which was ridiculous. And this, so Adolfo, harkening back to what you said earlier about the Phantom of the Opera match, the other thing I think because of the buzz around Jericho and all that stuff that was going on, I think, at least with Takeshita and Big Bill, there was a bit of an adrenaline surge every time they got in there. Like, I got to save this. I've got to keep and do that. Because Big Bill's big boot to Sting definitely hit him square. There were a couple of knees from Takeshita very snugly against Sting that threw him for a loop. He didn't get up in time, obviously, to get to one of those spots. He was still trying to pull himself up on the ropes. Yep. So there was a couple of mishits, which... Again, I can't blame on anybody, but Takeshita, we know, works snug. He's going to work really that DDT style, so if you're in the ring with him, you're going to get knocked around. But it seemed like they were running about 2 gears too high for that level against Sting. And then Jericho, they weren't pulling punches. I think all of them were trying to get their shots in because he continued to try to like milk this heat he thinks is so good. Yep. When it's becoming go-away heat. It's not even X-Pac heat, it's go-away heat. Yeah. Which we've said before when Kenny went out, like even before all this came out, we're sick of watching Jericho in the ring. He needs to take time off and go away for us to miss him, which I don't know if we'll miss him now, but he's just continuing to like, it becomes the Hogan style ego trip, which he rallied against for so long that he's now on.
Has he become the monster that he so vehemently wanted? Not
exactly what happened.
He drank his own Kool-Aid.
Yeah, exactly. You're in this business long enough, you end up becoming the monster that you hated to begin with. That's exactly what happened.
Unless you're Sting.
Unless you're Sting. Thank goodness Sting has stayed here throughout this whole entire thing because that's why we love Sting still. Like, Sting is awesome because He's able to stay out of the
Yeah, yeah.
craziness that the other side of the wrestling business brings. But
I love also at the
ridiculous.
end Darby Allin kicking Jericho out of the ring to be like, get out of here. Sting's getting his curtain call. Get
Yep.
out of the stupid ring. Do not
Yeah.
stand up with him.
That's
Yep.
yeah, exactly. Sting deserved better in his last match in New York, man. Like for reals.
Yeah.
He deserved better, and just because how messy this match was, and plus all the things that went on before said match in this pay-per-view happened, this was my low point of the entire night. Like this was a tough one to watch, and the crowd was just drained in a negative way because this was not a good match, and also the crowd was not going to let Jericho get away with all the allegations either. Which, by the way, Long Island, I got to give you credit because even though I have nitpicks with you during certain matches, you guys were great this whole entire time.
Oh, God, yeah.
They
Yeah.
ate almost everything up, and you guys were great. And that's why, because of how bad this match was and everything surrounding it, that I felt really bad for the match that we got next. Once again, the women's always have to do the thing where they have to try to get the crowd to care about what's about to go down because
And
after
dug them
this,
out of the hole. They dug them out of this hole. How? They did.
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying, because the TBS championship match between Abaddon and Julia Hart, like I felt so bad going into this, but by the end of it, I was like, Julia and Abaddon, they did that thing. They did that because they dug the previous match out of the hole, and they were able to get the crowd to come back and be invested again. And
Yeah.
kudos to Julia and Abaddon. I hate that people are giving Julia such a hard time about the moonsault, and I'm just like, yes, it wasn't
Oh, I
the
know.
cleanest,
Right.
but I was like, she is like what, still in her early 20s? I was like, she is still new to wrestling, you guys. Like,
Yeah.
what more do you want from Julia? Do you want her to be out here doing flips and dips and tricks perfectly? I'm like, calm down. You need to relax. But I thought,
She's
yeah,
a champion. That's the problem. I think that's where it's also coming from, is that because of the champion, people are expecting her to be perfect. But she's been amazing. There's nothing against it. Just people have a higher expectation in some weird reason.
I don't know. It's so weird. Internet wrestling community, y'all are weird. You are weird.
Hi.
Yeah.
But I really like this match. And again, between the two women's matches, this is the one that had the better build up in terms of story. Like literally, this was a
did.
program that was built up
It did.
over 4 weeks on Collision.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
Yeah.
just happy to see Abaddon on pay-per-view. Like they,
Yeah. Yep.
The
Going.
spookiness was on display.
yes,
Yeah. That I will say, the two things that bummed me out about this match. Number one, I would have gone for a lot more spookiness from both women, right? And we know that that both of them can bring the spook. You know what I mean? So I would have loved to see more spooky yuki stuff from the two of them. Maybe a Julia Hart, Black Mist, Abaddon's face, and then Abaddon just, oh, you only visit the shadows. I grew up in the shadows. Like turns to her. And,
You
yes.
without fiber.
So that, and I know that Sith Blue is now Julia's lackey, but I wish they wouldn't have had her come out and interfered. And it was a minor interference. It was a minor interference, and in the scheme of the match, it really didn't. It didn't really weigh heavily on anything. But that's the thing, is that it didn't weigh in on anything. We didn't need to have that. If you wanted Sith Blue to be out at the ring, have her come out and be at ringside and bark at Abaddon. But yeah, so those were my only two gripes about the match. Other than that, they really, especially with the hole that they were in, they really came out. They did their best. Julia Hart she's still learning, but I think that she's coming leaps and bounds from where she was from her early matches from earlier in 2023 that we watched on Rampage. Like I think she's just come leaps and bounds, and she's just gonna keep going up with her title run.
100%. My thing I love about this was it showed also that while Abaddon is a monster, She's not unbeatable. She's not like your standard Kane, your Undertaker, where they're just going to power through everything else. She is just relentless, but can be beaten. So having that spookiness along with stuff would have been a lot better. You're right. Like having that spot where she gets misted, eats the mist, enjoys it, and then spits it back at her or something would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I also enjoyed that she got distracted, went after, that's right, they went after Sky Blue and killed Sky Blue, which was what they needed to do. It was hard for me to watch and knowing that this is probably going to go the way it went, but the two of them had great chemistry. The pacing was wonderful, and even having the bite rule, which was a weird stipulation on top of the house rules to do, it played into that spooky and that I just want to hurt you. It doesn't matter if I win. I need to do that. Though we did joke on the stream, wouldn't it be funny if like next week, since Abaddon bit Julia, she's infected her until she becomes
Abaddon.
But I want this to not be done. I think this needs to have another match, maybe a handicap match between Abaddon and the two Spoopy Oopies, where she can actually run through them, not for the title, but just to get her revenge. Like they need that in their career to do so. I'm happy Abaddon's brought up. I'm happy Abaddon is now solidly on TV. Give me more of their matches.
Yep. The other thing, just really quick, I would have loved to have seen Julia Hart fighting Abaddon back. That would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
That would have been so great. But again, I feel that Julia and Abaddon did a great job in winning the crowd back after what they had to witness in the prior match before this.
You all don't deserve what we gave you.
They really didn't, but that's why I have to give kudos to Long Island, because they got over themselves a little bit and then they got invested. They're like, you know what? We got to support Julia and Abaddon here. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt. I wish the LA crowd was like that during Full Gear. I'm still not over what I heard.
You were so bitter about that LA crowd, and you were so railing how much you were happy that wrestling was coming to LA because it was such a great community. I'm like, I
was just upset.
Los Angeles, get on our level.
The people that we were sitting with, I was upset. I was literally upset. I'm like, how are you going to treat the TBS Championship match at Full Gear as the P-break match? I was so mad at them. And that ended up being good because those three women had to do everything they can to get the crowd back.
That was a good match.
Anyway, fans ruin your wrestling experience.
Right?
Right? Can you believe that? But not this crowd. Because then, thanks to Julia and Abaddon, they ended up giving the correct amount of energy for what was my match of the night. If you ignore the last 5 minutes that happened after the initial winner happened, which we'll get into. But upon second viewing, I'm still upset about how the second of the last 5 minutes after the match ended happened. This personally was my match of the night, only because this was a love letter to Christian and Adam Copeland's history together, their history as a tag team.
Foley.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this was for the TNT Championship match in a no DQ style of match where anything goes, no countouts, no disqualifications. You have Christian Cage defending his title against Adam Copeland. Again, this was my match.
Copeland.
Adam Copeland.
Yes. Thank you for interrupting my stream of consciousness. But again, this is my match of night because this basically they hit the trifecta of the holy untrinity that is no DQ, TLC, table, ladders, and chairs. Nick Wayne missed the table completely, but sold the heck out of being burnt to a crisp. But it seemed that he hit the mat a little bit harder than he was intending to. And then him flopping like a fish was hilarious. I love this match. This was so great. We'll get into bits and pieces. But Adolfo, I'm going to start with you.
That begs the question, like, how many flaming tables has Nick Wayne been thrown into?
He's worked in GCW.
Okay, but still
electrical light bulbs, but not as
yes.
So yeah, he might have jumped thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna land on this table," but like midair, been like, "I don't want to land in fire," and miss. But yeah, I know this was a great match. It would have been one of my tops of 2020 had it been earlier. It just goes to show Christian Cage and Adam Copeland, they are masters of their craft. They know what they're doing. The way that they were able to work not only Nick Wayne, but Nick Wayne's mom into this match, it was the sign of guys that like not only knew but love this type of thing. And normally, I don't like the weaselness that Christian Cage is and running off and his cronies coming in. But again, with Adam Copeland, it just worked. This whole thing worked. This match worked. It was a great match. Definitely my match of the night.
Was not my match of the night. Upon review afterwards, I did love the kind of references to all of their different battles, and not only them, the flaming table and the Dudleys, the spot with Mick Foley that was like a non spot where Adam Copeland didn't go through the ropes into the flaming table, the ladder spot like the Hardys would do where Christian did the giant splash over as that came over, were all great like nostalgic pops to this, but also told the story of their entire career together, as well as when they went separate, like the bar in the mouth, very reminiscent of Randy Orton, and who they have stuff with as well. It was given enough time, it was given enough space, and they worked every single minute into it with also great interference from the side that we knew was going to happen. And that chicken-esque heel work from Nick Wayne really worked throughout the entire thing, like being a coward in and out. Upon review, I didn't like the ending angle at all. I was really mad when we watched it live. Upon review, it still gives them a place to go to get that rubber match now, because now they've given Copeland the title and taken it directly from him. What it screams more to me, though, is that the bookers don't trust Luchasaurus to carry the end of a feud.
Yeah.
And they're not giving him a chance to do so with a man that actually could carry him to it in Christian Cage.
I'll buy that.
I don't think this was, we feel like we have to put a title on Adam Copeland because he's been here for that long. He doesn't need it. And he said that on a couple of occasions. So this was definitely the bookers going, let's just do a Money in the Bank, and let's do it in the way that seems right, because we've already built up that Christian can basically make Luchasaurus do whatever he wants, even though we keep teasing this, that there's going to be a breakup. So it just seemed rushed and not needed.
Yeah, I didn't mention those last 5 minutes of the match, and that's fine, because I did try to separate that from the match itself. But you are 100% correct. I feel that is totally the bookers, the people in the offices saying, "Oh, Luchasaurus can't carry this type of storyline." Thinking back on it, if you had Luchasaurus come in and had him cash in on that, and had him, instead of giving the contract over to Christian Cage, have him throw Christian Cage out of the ring, sign the thing, and then pin Adam Copeland and come out as the TNT champ. Like, I would have been fine with that. I would have been like, oh, okay, but
even have it come out a little earlier and wave it around to scare both of them during the match.
But yeah, just the way it came off, it also doesn't. It makes, in my opinion, it makes Kill Switch look like a little bitch.
Which is what they're going for.
And that's terrible, because he's supposed to be a big freaking lizard, a big walking Tyrannosaurus Rex of a half reptile, half man thing that tears into wrestlers. And Christian Cage just whispers some, filet mignon at the end. So come on, man. Yeah, that was very disappointing. The last 5 minutes let's call it a segment. Let's call it the 5-minute segment following
the match. It ended.
Following the match. Yeah.
The match ended. But it deflated all the energy in the room.
Yep.
It deflated the balloon they had blown up to this amazing place. Because why?
I was upset at that segment because we had a very fun TNT match, and this was a lot of fun. And then that 5-minute segment deflated it, which I was afraid of for our next match. But then I remembered who was involved, and it was like, they're going to be fine. So in our semi-main event for World's End, we have the Continental Classic Finals between Gold League winner Jon Moxley taking on a Blue League winner Eddie Kingston to become the inaugural Continental Classic champion, or Continental champion, I should say.
The Triple Crown champion, I believe.
The Triple Crown champion. Now, I had to thankfully I rewatched this pay-per-view for a second time because when we were watching it for the first time together on our watch along, go check the Patreon if you want to see that.
Link in the
I
description.
was link in the description below. I was taken out of the match after that really gnarly headbutt dive that Eddie Kingston did, and he dived straight
Really
into the
stumped
barricade.
himself, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I just want to say, do we think that that head injury caused the match to be as it was?
I don't think so.
No.
I think for the next 2 or 3 minutes, like Mox would check with Eddie when they were fighting. Then once Eddie let Mox know he was okay, because it was still brutal. That whoever posted the picture on Twitter earlier today, I loved them forever. Too bad I don't remember the username, but they're like people complaining about the Continental Classic, and this is what we got. And it was a still shot of Eddie chopping Moxley and just the impact, and we just saw Moxley's tech just like ripple. I was like, that's not Photoshop. That was a real thing that happened on that pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Was this any groundbreaking storytelling for me? No, because this is not the first time we've seen Mox and Eddie fight each other. Did I enjoy the brutality that was this match in terms of how hard they hit each other? Absolutely. I have a propensity for violence. This was a lot of fun. Those chops, man. Eddie Kingston almost doing all 4 corners with the machine gun chops. I was just like, once again, I love that AEW mics up the ring, because from where we're at and where we're at home, we heard those chest chops between both of them. It was a beautiful thing.
Yep.
So this is going to sound strange. This was my match of the night.
You know what?
Upon review. When we were watching the live stream, our friend Jesse did turn and say, like, at the beginning, the way the feeling out process was going, it seemed like Brock versus Goldberg in their match at WrestleMania 20, where neither of them wanted to commit to anything, and they were trying not to hurt each other on the way out. I agreed with him in the moment, but going back and watching this again and taking that dive out and realizing he was okay from it, because that also tinged my first watching. It was like, oh God, did he break his neck? The beginning, the feeling out process of this match felt to me like Mom's gone out for the day, and my brother and I have had a humongous argument, and now we're just, do we do this? Do we actually physically go after each other? Is this going to happen? Because we've been talking about it, but I'm not supposed to hurt you, but at the same time, you really got under my skin here, and I need to assert my dominance for some reason. And that's what it felt like, building up until the German after the dive, and then when it finally got into, we're going all out. And feeling that love and hate at the same time, and watching them put it across their faces that way, as well as knowing as performers they were trying to take care of each other to the best of their abilities, it gave an undercurrent to the match that I just didn't give it on the first watch. And I was surprised how deep it got for me, and I don't know whether that's just me putting it on myself or whether it was actually there, but it definitely felt as two men who have known each other forever, that know they probably shouldn't be fighting anymore because they really share a lot of things in common, but we have to, because you've gone too far, and you've gone too far. So this ended up being my match of the night, and the right person won.
I am gonna now make an effort in the next 48 hours to rewatch this match now, because after watching it, I thought I was done. I was good. I still feel like after Eddie took that horrendous knock to the head, that to me it felt a little it felt like a little slow. But now, having heard that take on it, JVL, I'm gonna rewatch it. So I'm still not. It's not my match of the night, and it probably won't be. But I want to rewatch it, and with that new context, and see if that changes my overall view on the match. I thought it was a good ending to the Continental Classic. I will give it that, and I am happy that Eddie won. I feel that there's a lot of story that can now come. We can feed off of this with Eddie.
BCC too.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So, final thoughts from me on this match. Even though I picked the TNT Championship match as my match of the pay-per-view, this was my second favorite match, and this one, it was really close. I will say, I think entertainment-wise, the TNT Championship match is my favorite. But from looking at how we started the Continental Classic and how we got to the finals in terms of storytelling, this is my match of the night, storytelling-wise, only because we started the Continental Classic and we talked about it over on Dynamite. All the participants that were involved in the Classic, and we were talking about it. You go all the way back 2 months ago. I called this final being between Mox and Eddie Kingston because Moxley is the final boss in AEW for a lot of folks who are ready for that next level in order to be pushed to stardom. And Eddie Kingston is his rival, but you have also created the narrative that Eddie Kingston is going to be the underdog in the story because looking at everybody else when this tournament began, Eddie was the clear underdog in all of this because he was going up against the likes of Andrade and Brody and Daniel Garcia and all those folks. And Danielson for that matter too. Like the deck was stacked against Eddie, and they made me believe that he wasn't going to win when he lost his first two matches, and then he won. Yeah. He beat Danielson in the block finals to reach to here, which, by the way, if you have not seen it, you're doing yourself a disservice. You need to go watch that match between Danielson and Eddie Kingston from Dynamite, because that was my match of the whole entire Dynamite. Like, that was worthy of being a Continental Classic final right there. Mox also did a good job. I appreciate that they showed love to each other afterwards. Yep. I'm super happy for Eddie Kingston.
Danielson was upset that they did that too. Did you see that?
Yes, I was just like, ooh.
No, do not. That's not right.
That was crazy. So who knows if Danielson's going to have words for Moxley. I agree with Adolfo and I agree with JVL. I'm hoping that we keep Eddie and the BCC apart for a little bit, especially since Mox and Danielson are going to be going to Japan next week to have their matches at Wrestle Kingdom.
Right.
Going to be good. And hopefully that means we get to see Eddie be on Ring of Honor more, since he is our Ring of Honor World Champion.
With all those belts, too. Like, I'm looking forward to some defenses, which should be a lot of fun. At least prove-it matches, which will be fun.
Yep. Proving ground matches, absolutely. This was a fantastic match. This was my storytelling match of the evening. I loved it so much. And after this, we get into our main event of World's End for the AEW World Championship. We have challenger Samoa Joe taking on Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF.
Accompanied by Adam Cole.
Baby.
Adam Cole.
Adam Cole. I thought this was a good match. God, I sound like a broken record.
I liked it a lot. I liked
it. It was. I thought that it was a great yin to the yang of the Arthur Ashe match. I thought that for MJF's storyline, this was a great ending to his storyline and his run as a champion. He comes in, he's beat up a lot more than probably he wanted to let off. But he went down swinging. And Joe just came out, just got the better of him. And I loved it. I'm happy that Joe is now the new AEW World Champion. I'm excited to see what we're going to be doing with Joe and who his first title defenses are going to be against. And you know what? I'll do a show on my crazy theories on who his title defenses are going to be on. But yeah, I'm excited. And MJF, if you even catch wind of this, rest, my friend. You deserve it. You deserve it. It was a great match. You had a great run. Heal. Please heal. And then wherever you come back to, that way you can come back stronger and better. So
he'll heal to become a heel again.
Do you think so?
He'll come back and get out. The crowd will still love him for a bit, but he definitely knows that he plays better off as a heel, and he's going to try to get back to that now. But it's hard being so brokenhearted that your supposed best friend has been working against you this entire time, because the right person was shown to be the devil.
Right. But now that makes it that we have two heels going against each other. Not that I don't want to talk about MJF. but I want to let him rest. I feel like he is a fine steak that has been pulled out from underneath the scorpion, and we're now going to put butter on it, and we're going to let it and put it aside and let it rest so that it can truly just be like when it comes out to the table. But yeah, now Adam Cole is the devil. And Alice was talking about this, and I agree. And she put it so much more eloquently than I could ever put it. But he's a real Adam Cole. He's a real villain. He's a real villain for this all this manipulation and all these strings that he pulled and this, that, and the other. And then like that final, and I might be in the minority against Lizard Brain, but that final where the lights went out. Before that, we had the Devils come out and they grabbed both MJF and Adam Cole, and MJF is saying, "Hit me with the chair." Adam Cole saying, "Hit me with the chair," and then the lights go out, and when they come back up, it's Adam Cole sitting in the chair, and like then the slow pull out of the devil mask. I loved it. Loved it. Loved it.
And the reveal of who's been under the hoods, as we all knew, it was Roddy and the Kingdom and Wardlow.
Right, and Wardlow. Which those four were, like, to me, they were a no-brainer. Like, you knew that they were behind the masks. It was just a question of, were they the only ones that were putting this together, or was there a ringleader, which there was. And I actually commented on our trip down to Sesame Place, I had commented this to Alice. If you think about Roddy and the Kingdom and Wardlow, like, they are all schleps. You know what I mean? They do not have a brain amongst the four of them to come up with some sort of long con play like this. So yeah, you needed some sort of mastermind, and Adam Cole was that mastermind. I saw a tweet or someone say how, or an article or something like that, how they feel that this is going to take away from the push that Roddy and the Kingdom have had. I disagree with that. I feel this only adds to their push and to making this faction like a significant threat.
Like an undisputed era?
Ooh, yes, perhaps.
Like a Mount Rushmore? Adam Cole always gets involved in?
I will say, Adam Cole, for me, I like him as a face, but he works better as a heel. His best work in any promotion that he's in is when he's a heel.
Very much, especially surrounded by his friends that all just want to have fun with it, too. I'm happy that the Kingdom also have the ROH tag titles, because that could mean now they can fly between both promotions, because the Kingdom aren't as pushed in AEW. They're lackeys there, but they could go down and defend in ROH like they want to and reunite with Maria. And then you have the pull of like Maria can like ream Mike Kanellis or Mike Bennett out. Like, why are you listening to him? I'm your wife. I've been running your career the whole time. What's been going on here? There's such good stuff you can do cross promotion wise with this.
Yeah.
They do it. We're gonna have to wait and see if we can.
So I do have a question though.
Mm-hmm.
All of Wardlow's promos that have been the same promo for 2 months, can we throw that out in the trash now that he's the heavy again for a group?
Yes, unfortunately.
How's that unfortunate? He's going to do better doing this.
That's very... Go ahead.
And I was not going to bring this in, but like how that, to me, puts him at the spearhead to go after Samoa Joe. Because that was his whole purpose, his whole reason for revenge against MJF was that MJF cost him his shot at the title. Now, he wants that title. And how poetic would it be if Adam Cole was like, "Hey, Samoa, we had a contract here. Now our boy, we want that gold." You know what I mean? So, and Wardlow is the first one to step up for that. And I think that just sets that up very well.
Plus, it's a meat-on-meat match. You can't go wrong with two big manly meat men slapping meat.
Can't go wrong with the man meat. Dissension.
Normally, under normal circumstances, I would be behind this idea. There's only one little glaring issue for me personally that I have in this whole thing. Yes, MJF cost Wardlow the chance to go at the title. That is very true. We also need to remember, though, that Wardlow did beat MJF pre being the champion for all this, too. Because remember, way back in 2021, 2022, remember, after Wardlow turned on MJF, they had a match. Wardlow beat MJF, and that was before he had the title.
That was for his contract, so he could be a free man.
Exactly. So Wardlow beat MJF in that match, pre-champion MJF that we had for the last 400 and some odd days. You mean to tell me that we had him beat MJF? We never got any conclusion of when MJF won said title for Wardlow be like, all right, I want to go after that title. Got costed, but then he got taken off television and we haven't seen him for months. And then he comes back, squash matches, cuts all these promos. I was like, okay, so are we going to get Wardlow versus MJF at some point? And then now he's back in the faction. I'm just like, all right, sure, fine, whatever.
Yep. If I can play the other side of that coin, though, but look, Wardlow did get his revenge. He's been getting his revenge on MJF this whole time. And he finally did get his revenge. It might have not been in a one-on-one match.
But he took the thing he loved away. He took everything from him.
Exactly. And
a month.
Right, and not only is MJF's gold gone, but MJF, and again, props to Maxwell J. Friedman for his acting chops, but he sold that betrayal just crushed him. So, and you had Wardlow standing over him, chuckling like that. He got his ultimate revenge.
Sure, that's fine and everything. But now what happens next? Because the Kingdom have the titles. You're setting Adam Cole to go on this heel rampage run. I think Adam Cole and Hangman, I think, are going to be feuding for the next couple of weeks / months, which I'm excited for. Hangman versus Cole, or Hangman versus the Devil's Advocates, because Cole technically can't wrestle still yet. But
that's why I think Wardlow's going to be his proxy at this point until he gets better. He's just my head to get to me.
Yeah.
Which is fine, I guess. My whole thing is that, once again, and this is just a personal pet peeve of mine, and anybody can disagree, and that's fine with it.
I disagree.
Of course you do. But my biggest issue with this whole thing for Wardlow is that we did all this stuff before he got taken off of TV. I was like, oh, you know what? Interesting character development. He's more of a face now. And now we stick him as the heavy in another faction storyline. I'm like, okay. I was like, can we... Listen, I understand that you want your big boys to be the heavies when you have a lot of these factions, but you gotta do something different. I'm tired of seeing it, and yeah, it is what it is. Now, I will say, minus that nitpick, I love having Adam Cole be the devil. I love that Roddy and the Kingdom were a part of this. I love that MJF had everything taken away from him. I thought that was fantastic. I feel that kind of meandered a little bit between when we initially got the devil versus the reveal of who it was, because we had the whole Full Gear build where that completely disappeared off the face of the planet, and it was post Full Gear where we got it back. So we had a whole month and a half stretch of, we can't really do this because Adam Cole got hurt. Let's do something else, which costed Jay White booking and just continuing to cut this man down to size, which I feel really bad for, because Jay White's not the type of person to go on the internet and complain about it, because he's a trooper, but he deserves better. But I like the ending to this. I love Joe being the champion. I think he's going to have some fun feuds, and I am making my prediction either at Revolution or Double or Nothing. Swerve is taking that title off of him and holding it until All In, where Will Ospreay will take that title off of Swerve.
There you go. You made the prediction, and Adolfo said you're going to talk about your crazy theories about that too. I look forward to that, even if I could join in and throw a couple of things at you on that too, which would be a lot of fun. So
totes.
We got ideas.
With that, gentlemen, we've come to the end of World's End. See what I did there? Before we sign off for the evening, we need to do our final ratings. Here in 2024, we are using an out of 10 scale. Because we are the Grapple Gurus, we are going to be why are you giving me that face for?
Why don't I have another scale?
Listen, Linda, let me finish.
We have to
We're still gonna use the empanada scale, but we're gonna use it we're gonna use 10 instead of 5. Just use the normal.
We should do during the holidays.
Just use the 5 empanada scale, and whatever score you give for that, double it. It's
Oh,
since you want to complain about it so much, by the powers invested in me, Adolfo, you could go first. World's End as a whole entire show. Out of
World's
10
End.
empanadas, what do you give this?
the entire show, I give it 6 empanadas. Go ahead.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
No
fine.
reasoning.
No, so six,
No seasoning whatsoever.
no 6 empanadas. They're just your standard ham and cheese that you make. It was, to me, it was a good pay-per-view. It was a enjoyable pay-per-view. Yes, it had its hiccups along the lines, but there was not a point where I looked at my watch and I was like, oh my god, this is still going on. So there we go.
For mine, I would have started at about like a 4 or 5 on the first watch, but then I had leftovers the next day, and I'm like, oh, these are better now. The stuff has melded better. The flavors have come together, and I'm understanding what the thought was behind these empanadas when they were made. They were just too hot when I ate them in the first place. So I jumped it up to about a 6.5. Better than average, better than Grand Slam, but not their best that they had.
I am in the same boat as JVL. I'm going to give this a solid 6.5 empanadas out of 10. I don't think this was the worst AEW pay-per-view, as some people are calling this. I still give Double or Nothing from 2023 as the worst pay-per-view of the year, just because of how overbooked almost every single match it was for no apparent reason. Listen, Grand Slam Dynamite was a travesty, but Grand Slam Rampage was where it was at. And Adolfo and I can attest to it because we reviewed Grand Slam Rampage, and that was so much better. It was a 2-hour Rampage, and we got all the fun stuff. But in terms of World's End, of the 8 pay-per-views that we got from AEW in 2023, I put this with 8 being the worst and 1 being the best. I put it at a 6. I didn't think it was inherently bad. Now, everything that happened outside of what we witnessed on the pay-per-view, especially during that 8-man tag, definitely soured the mood a little bit. But I thought there were some fun matches. We wrapped up some storylines, and now heading into 2024, I'm hoping that both Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision begin to tell more stories and we get new feuds, because I'm still invested in AEW, but now that we cleaned the slate a little bit, now I'm going to see how we handle the next 3 months as we build towards their next pay-per-view. As of right now, Revolutions. I thought this was a 6.5 out of 10 empanada show. And with that, gentlemen, we have completed our first live-streamed pay-per-view review.
I have got to go pee.
With all of you people.
Yes. I got to pee. Let's go.
Alrighty.
Thank you all for watching. We enjoyed being here. Yes, my back teeth are floating. Go ahead, Mikey.
Of course. Thank you so much for tuning into our first live stream. We will be back next Monday. Some of us will be. If you are a fan of New Japan Wrestling, come back for our next pay-per-view live stream on Monday, as me, Andrew, and whoever else wants to show up are going to be reviewing New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 18. It's going to be a really fun one. If you enjoyed what we do here, make sure you check out everything we've got here at the Biconics Wrestling YouTube channel, which includes now live streams and edited reviews. You can expect an edited review of this pay-per-view tomorrow, so that's going to be fun. Follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod. We have a Patreon now, where if you want to see exclusive, never before seen videos, including our watch-alongs, where it's just like our podcast, where we're unhinged and is out of control. Make sure that you subscribe to the Patreon, link in the description of this live stream below. And then, of course, make sure to subscribe to wherever your favorite podcasting network happens to be, or the Biconics Wrestling Podcast. As always, from myself, Adolfo, and JVL, and the rest of the Biconics boys, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, stay Biconic, you beautiful peoples. Until the next review, we'll see you later. But until then, talk for now.